need the approval for the agenda.
So moved. Move to approve.
All in favor? Okay. And then the review and approval for the minutes of September 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, okay. The approval of the closed session, we did that independently, Jeanette, or do we need?
You need to vote on it.
We need to vote, okay, so everybody's seen it, I think, and so we need a motion to approve the closed session then.
Motion to approve closed session minutes
So September 1.
of September 1.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. That is not going to be here today, but Daniel, if you want to just give a real quick.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. Basically, spending's right on track. And the revenue continues to come in a strong manner. I think we had a little pause last month, and we were all just tired of it. But this month it looks like we're rebounding back pretty well.
Okay. Anybody got questions on the financial status or anything?
Thank you,
Okay. There will be, from Chairman Wiggins, he wanted everybody to make sure, and I haven't seen it, I don't know, but our state magazine has come out with the, or did you see it, Rick?
Mayor.
Oh,
From Grant County?
yeah.
I saw a post on, is that it? I saw a post on Facebook. Is that,
I'm not sure, I haven't seen the
Okay.
Facebook, but
it was an our state article.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was very, very positive. Well done. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think the trail dedication was good.
we'll cover that a little bit through the
Okay.
report.
On the Welcome Center, I'm very pleased to announce that this next week or so, the poles will be going in for the sign, and so things are progressing there very good. So that's finally that has come to passion. And then I'll bring it to Daniel's report.
All right. Thank you, sir. The first thing that I'll point out is that if you look under the Visitor Center in the Office of Staff report, there is a marked difference between a year ago September and this September, the number of visitors that we saw in the office, and remember that number is not necessarily single folks. That number has not been calculated to include multiples in the group in every instance. So it runs a little bit low, but that is a good sign. Under my ongoing programs, projects, initiatives, and directives, they began with the Centennial Lake cleanup. I just wanted to let you know, and there was an article in the Graham Star that alluded to this. It was a big success, and there were a lot of people that participated, and it did make a huge difference. And I know that there was going to also be a second effort a couple of days after the 24th, after that Saturday, the 24th, or maybe a weekend or two after that, where there were a couple of areas that they hadn't been able to get to. They were actually sending out another group to try to clean those areas up as well. Under the next bullet point, we've got trail dedication, and that should be trail dedications. It's my fault. On Tuesday, September 27th, we held two dedications, and really they were almost rededications of trails. One was the Centennial Lake Trail, that this board has worked awfully hard on. It was really interesting, and there was a good article in the Graham Star, again, thank you, about these events, but it was interesting to hear the history of the trail, work on the trail and how it was conceived and all that. And your chairman, Mr. Wiggins, did a lot of that speaking, and Keith Evans for the U.S. Forest Service also spoke, and he spoke more to the Forest Service perspective, and also to the fact that how pleased they had become after really, I won't say reluctant, but it was not, they were somewhat skeptical about what a new partnership with any entity in Graham County might be. But this board proved to the Forest Service that they could indeed carry out what they committed to do, and he was extremely complimentary of that partnership that we formed with the U.S. Forest Service, and also talk about the fact that we're, there are future projects that we're hoping to work together on and for the good of the forest and the county. I also asked that the second dedication, besides the Centennial Lake Trail dedication, was a dedication of two trails actually that connect, and that dedication was near and dear to Rick Davis' heart, and I'll let him go ahead and tell us a little bit about that ceremony.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. The Kids in Parks Trail dedication, that was in conjunction with two existing trails that was already present. The Civilian Conservation Corps Accessible Trail right across from the Ranger Station, and the Fitness Trail. So those both became Kids in Parks trails, and we were really, really excited to finally get to dedicate those. There were a lot of players there in the rehabilitation of those two trails and promoting especially the CCC trail. If you were there, Valerie was there, Daniel was there. The stories were just fantastic, weren't they?
They were amazing.
General Bonnet, he related a lot of history, and Marshall McClung was there and talked about the history of the CCC camp. That was NCF-24 camp. Scooter Brown was there, who was the district ranger at that particular point in time when the accessible trail was being built. And he is in mid-80s now, and he was at both dedications, and he led the people on the hikes. I mean, he was just a really, really just amazing. And his two daughters were there too. And really, it was a collaborative effort. This was one of the last projects that I was involved with when I was executive director of a great organization. So it was great to kind of spearheaded it. Travel and tourism, if you remember, put money into the project. Duke Energy put some money in. Of course, the U.S. Forest Service with their in-kind contributions of labor. The North Carolina Community Foundation, all the volunteers. So it was just a really, really great day for the Centennial Trail trail dedication, and then also for the CCC trail. So if you've not walked that little trail, it's a 1/4 mile trail, and the pavement is still there, believe it, after 40 years. It's been patched. It really, really needs to be replaced. So, one of the things that I'd like to get the board to think about is maybe contributing to repaving the trail at some point in time in the future, because it desperately needs repaving so that it would be accessible to our handicapped folks and to our elderly folks. It's probably going to cost about $60,000 to repave it. So I know that the Forest Service, I know that great and other organizations are looking for funds to help with that. But it would be really, really nice if travel and tourism could say, okay, we could submit X amount of dollars, to go toward that item. So, thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Then the next item is the Road to Fall, and the Road to Fall is the theme and actually the title of our social media campaign that we do in conjunction with Monroe County to encourage people to leaf look along the Cherohala Skyway. Jeanette gave each of you a copy of the brochure that folks that travel the Skyway can pick up at both visitor centers, and also a token. And if you'll remember, one of the components of traveling across is that if you start at the Welcome Center in Monroe County, they'll give you this brochure and instruct you that if you'd like, if you'll visit our visitor center when they come across, they can get one of these tokens. And, but, obviously vice versa. It's been interesting because this year has been the most successful year yet, certainly at the kickoff. We actually kicked it off on the 24th with the Centennial Lake cleanup, and on their side they had the Cherohala Skyway cleanup that they did during the same weekend, or actually during the same weekend. They did on Friday, and the lake cleanup was on Saturday. But we're still seeing tremendous interest. I think Jeanette had four folks today, so every day we've got people coming in. The most interesting thing was that the first Facebook post hit at, I think, 6:30 in the morning, and on the day of the first one, we had the first 4 or 5 people to come in to talk about it and to try to understand what they needed to do, either coming from the other side or leaving our side and going to their side. And they were pleased that there was something that would get them out and encourage them to be up there looking. And these were not just, these were actually visitors. There were people that were visiting here and people that were visiting on their side as well. With our fulfillment program, you'll recall that we have searched for a way to try to carry that out, which is basically being able to, in a timely manner, get out our collateral materials, both our visitor's guide and the other 3 guides things that we publish ourselves, to get those to both various and sundry visitor centers, the large accommodations and cabins that individuals and families own, and to everybody that's every place that we need, like the traveling visitor centers on interstates and that kind of thing. So we actually have reached an agreement with a private contractor, and we've begun that work on a trial basis this week. It looks to me like I think it probably worked extremely well, but we'll keep you in the loop on that. The next item was Fading Voices. Fading Voices, we had the recapping meeting several weeks ago, and one of the things that they wanted to do was have us work to help develop their logo and color, which we've now done. They wanted to make sure that we did it in time for the Stokoe Valley Harvest Center, which is this upcoming weekend, so that they could create a poster for that, which we're going to help them do that. The Azalea Festival 2022, we have already begun meeting there with that group. We just today I executed a multi-year permit with the Forest Service to carry on. It's a permit that would carry us through 2027. It just expedites what we have to do, it names what our responsibilities are and what we'll do, but also what's expected of us as well. Under the farmers market, we're your vice chairman, who's in chairperson of the group, I guess that he and Billy are members, and I think there may be another member too that works with the farmers market. We're soon to convene a meeting with them in order to try to get ahead of what needs they might have for next year from us. The one thing that I didn't put on your list, but I added as a bullet point after that thing was printed, is this Great Smoky Mountains Association. And if you'll remember, they're the publishers of Smoky's Life. We did enter into an advertising agreement with them for this upcoming year. One of the things that I wanted you to realize is that in doing so, they had a members weekend, September 16th through 18th. This year it was on the North Carolina side, it was in Cherokee. And during that members weekend, we were featured in one of their displays, and they actually had our material, promotional material, and exposed it to that. It was exposed to that group. So that's just an added benefit of advertising in their magazine. Magazine's very similar to the type of publication like our state that we try to do if we do print advertising, but also, of course, always they contain digital components as well. And we haven't entered into an agreement yet that didn't have the digital component because of our strong social media and internet efforts. The Graham County Sequoia Centennial, there's not a date yet for the recapping of that, and that's a little bit on purpose. We've talked to a lot of the steering committee. They're very anxious to do that, but there may be a thing that one more little activity that we might do before the end of the year. And so I'd hate to really recap before we decide on that as a group. The micro documentary series this weekend, actually, Mr. Davis and his family are going to be involved in some filming a multi-generational fly fishing video that we think will be a big hit. And I just hope that the weather holds out like it should. And if it does, it should be beautiful.
Let's hope that the fish bite.
Yeah, let's hope the fish bite as well. But finally made some real positive movement thanks to Jeanette and Tammy Phillips is with the Graham County Finance Office. They met last week, and the progress we made was trying to consolidate our accommodations database so that the information that's in the Finance Office and the information we have are one and the same, and they're accurate. So it's a slow and tedious process because, quite honestly, there have been a number of different processes that people have tried to employ over the years, and it just made it difficult. Is that a pretty accurate way to put it today? Okay. But anyway, thanks to Jeanette and Tammy, they have made a good start on it, and we expect that in the next several months we'll have that finished. U.S. Forest Service projects. The latest was on the 15th. Heath Emmons and I, as a result of several different efforts, part of which this board was involved in, actually did a survey of the overlooks on the Cherohala Skyway. We had looked at some other overlooks as well that they're responsible for. We did a pretty extensive, or actually the result of it would be a pretty extensive write-up of what actually needs to be done at each and every one of the overlooks. There has been an effort by DOT to do some mowing, but there's a little bit more communication we need to have there. because there certainly could be, I feel like that we have an agreement where DOT can cover a little bit more ground than they actually cover at this point.
What about the Sneakhorn Gap overlook?
That
Did you
was-
guys look at that?
We did.
Okay.
We looked at it independently, but we both have looked at it, and we actually discussed it this morning. So, and that one, I'm hoping to get both of them, get people back up on both of them, to do what they're doing. The real problem, and Rick knows this well, and a lot of other people may as well, is that it's just in the growth over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it will take more than just a lawnmower, a mower in some instances. And that was primarily what we're trying to look at, is what really needs to be done, but also what could be done in the short run. And there are some places where selectively herbicides can be used, I guess, or something, if they're approved. Our State magazine, I've written my note that I wrote earlier. They said I should receive the proposal from our state for advertising contract for this year within the next few days. I actually got it right before I left office. I haven't had a chance to even open the email or read it, but I noticed that I had it. So that I'll be bringing back information to the board shortly about what our recommendation is there. Visit North Carolina, the Visitor's Guide. That's actually the official North Carolina travel guide. We began advertising in it last year because prior to that we had a big presence Graham County-wise throughout that. But what's happened is they've changed the criteria for what they're willing to put in, what they're willing to feature. That's what I'm trying to say. So we felt like it necessitated our actually having an advertising presence there. But in addition to that, we've also got a presence with them through the internet. Last year we had a link that allowed us to link to the YouTube channel. And this year we're hoping that we're going to take that link and actually create something from some of the footage on the microdocs and put with it. So it would actually be like a mini travel guide for Graham County, in a sense. Website refreshing, that's an ongoing work. As far as the grant that we have been working on, we've actually, some of the committee there has been attending some meetings that were suggested by some of the prospective co-funders, meetings with groups and individuals that might help us gain knowledge that would strengthen our proposal. And the last thing I had there was new business, and that's actually not new business before the board. It's the fact that we're going to have a new business here in Graham County. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but Outland Gas and Groceries has been sold. It apparently closed yesterday, or was set up to close yesterday, so we let the new owners break their own news about what that business is going to involve. But there will be more information soon. So that's what I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Okay. And we'll go to public comment, and I think the first gentleman is Cal.
That's me.
Okay.
You know, I'm Cal Cherohala. I live on Lower Sawyer Creek Road. And when I retired a while back, I could have lived anywhere in the world. I had been to all 50 states and a number of foreign countries. But I chose Graham County because I think it's the best and most beautiful place in the world. And I'm here because I want to keep it that way. And we are in danger of losing one of the biggest attractions. We have 35, the Forest Service says 35,000 visitors come every year to see the big trees in Joyce Kilmore. And the last time I was out there, just a month and a half ago, there were 3 people from Germany there. Another time I was out there, there was people from Spain, Then you go to the parking lot and see license plates. It's not a local attraction, it's a national attraction, it's an international attraction. And they come to see the trees, and these are the biggest trees east of California. They're 400 years old, and you have to go to Sierra Mountains of California, something like that. If we do nothing, they're all going to be destroyed. Not in the next year or two, but in the next 5 years, maybe the next decade. And how they're being destroyed, they're so popular that when you have 35,000 people go out there, they walk, stand on the bases of the trees to pose for photographs. They walk close to the trees and pull bark off as well. And also there's so much traffic that the earth that has covered the roots has been exposed, and then you run the bark off that. And when you run the bark off, the base of the tree are the roots. You open it to pathogens that can destroy it, and also starts to rot as well. And 2 trees have been lost already. One at the intersection was lost 5-10 years ago. And there's also the twins up there. Everyone knows about that. One of the twins has developed a rotting hole at its base because people stand there to pose. And you can put a stick in that hole, goes 4 feet. I measured it. That tree is being held up by a small perimeter of wood, and it's going to fall in the near future, is my prediction. And I got a couple photographs I'd like to show you. Unfortunately, I don't have copies for everyone. I have 3 photographs, Joe. You can pass these around. But the first one basically shows a couple posing at the twins. And if you look at the woman's foot, it's right at the place where that rotting hole has developed. And the second picture just shows you the exposed roots. And the third picture shows you what they're doing in California to protect their giant trees. They have put low fences up, they put paths in, and thereby keeping the thousands of visitors away from the trees. And also, I'd like to just point out that, here we go. Oh yeah, once these trees are destroyed, we're going to lose 35,000 visitors a year, and they're going to go elsewhere. And what's the loss of 35,000 visitors going to do to us? I drew these numbers from the Forest Service and from the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, but, sorry. There we go. But the Forest Service says it shows $35,000 visitors a year. The Chamber of Commerce says the average visitor spends $148 a year. Could you make sure that the members who are not here could copy these too? Yeah. Thank you. So we have the average tourist spending $148 a day in Grant County. And if you multiply that by 35,000, you come up with $5.18 million. That is infused into our county because of this tourist attraction. And you can lower that daily expenditure to $100 a day per person. It works out to $3.5 million. Anyway, when you crunch the numbers, Joyce Kilmore Tourism probably brings in $10,000 to $14,000 per day into our county. And also, the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce says that all of us save at least $170 in state taxes because of visitor expenditures. in the state. Now, in here, you're probably saying, why don't I go to the Forest Service? It's their land, and they're in charge of it. I have already done that. I've been working with Andrew Gaston for a year and a half, encouraging him to basically do something about these trees. And he has done nothing so far. In fact, there was an article in the Graham Star just last month where he is quoted as saying he sees no evidence that visitors pose any threat to the trees, despite the fact that you can see the bark being rubbed off. You can see where the fresh pieces of bark are peeled off the trees by visitors. And also, in a personal email to me, Mr. Gaston said, those trees are old, they're past their average lifespan, they're going to die anyway. So that's his attitude at this point. But the reason I come to you is because I think you can help nudge Mr. Gaston in the right direction. I'm pretty sure about this, but last year the Wilderness Society gave the Partners of Joyce Kilmore and this Bureau a $30,000 grant to save the trees. That money is available, and it was Joe Gottsman who sent that out. And you can use that money to publicize this problem, one suggestion. Another suggestion is that you have business members. Almost every business in the county is going to be negatively impacted if we lose 35,000 visitors a year. And they have a vested interest in this. And you have to think long term. I mean, it's not going to affect us this year, next year, and next year. But 5, 10 years down the road, those trees are going to be gone. And there's not an infinite number of trees out there. I have never done a survey. I don't think the Forest Service has done a survey. There may be a dozen or 2 dozen. Like I said, we lost 2 already, and we are going to lose more. So I'm just asking for your intervention to say this is not only a Graham County treasure, but it's a North Carolina, it's a national treasure. People come from all over the world to see this, and we're locals, we sort of take it for granted. I'm just asking for you to intervene in ways I suggested, but I'm sure you have many more ideas than I do, of using that money in a productive way and contacting businesses that you represent here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. George, you have it?
Picture to show you all too. This is a tree that's not even on the trail. The trails that are in the Memorial Loop, this is off the trails. The problem with it is that tourists will make their own trail. They made a trail with this tree, and you can see the destruction on the bark right there because they got to touch the tree. So this $30,000 is sitting in a bank account, has been sitting in a bank account for some years. It ought to be used somewhere. And the ways that I've proposed, I wrote a letter to the Graham Star that was published about this. And there's some pretty simple things to be done. One is just to cover the root bones with local mulch. Forest Service could gather leaves and mulch and moss from the general area, cover those root bones. The other thing they could do is put up a low barrier, not something real big, but a couple feet high, made out of local lumber or made out of tree limbs or whatever to look natural, with a little sign that says, please don't approach the trees. And that'll help a great deal, I think. The third thing would be to reroute the trail so that you're not walking all over the root bones of these trees. And I think that's extremely important. But what do y'all think? Is this something that y'all are interested in doing or not?
Well, I love the idea of helping protect our trees, but I'm still not sure what you're asking or what you're, what is it you want?
What I just described. to get the Forest Service to cover the routes.
How much is that work?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was like, don't know how much that's going to cost. Have you got any budget? Have you got any information about it? Sorry.
The way I understand is that you're not responsible for the wilderness area. And the Forest Services and Andy Gaston in particular are responsible for it. And we're just asking you to nudge him in any way you can. And one way is to get businesses to call him up or write letters to the editor, okay? And another way is that you're sitting on $30,000 that was designated to save those trees. And you can use that to publicize. And also we could, once we have approval from Mr. Gaston, go out there, we could use that to pay people to go up. Or we can get a lot of volunteers as well. So there's a variety of ways that money could be used. But the
If you need to pay anybody, there are plenty of volunteers that will do the work.
first thing is we have to move Mr. Gaston to see this as a problem, and so far, he does not see it as a problem.
Okay. Any other questions? I think all of us support Joyce Gilmore. I think, Mr. Gaskins is over the forestry, and we have a good rapport with him, but he's his own person, and I think we all support it and would do anything, but I think the U.S. Forestry Service, we need them to do a lot more also in protecting the trees and, and trying to make this whole area a wilderness area. So I think, everybody's on the same page of wanting to protect Joyce Gilmore, but if you don't have Mr. Gaskin's support, it's an uphill battle.
That's why I'm here. That's why we're here.
There's a lot we love the Forestry Service too. But thank you for your comments, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, is there any new business? Okay. Any old business? And so I don't have anything else. I don't think it's necessary to go to closed session until we get more information.
Right.
Okay. So, quick meeting, thank you, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, Rob.